I think there's plenty of pressure enough when you're making any of these movies. I mean, making a good movie is a hard thing to do, and I think all we tried to focus on was like, how can we make this resonant? How can we make it work?
At first, I have to say it's a pleasure talking to you about Thunderbolts. And having seen the film, I can say I was not prepared for what it delivered. I was partly crushed because I felt the pain of these characters. Of course, there are some very funny parts, but I loved that you and Thunderbolts had a much deeper psychological tone. Was that your intention from the beginning, or did it change maybe over the time?
I think I think it did shift. I think like when I was first pitching on the movie, Century wasn't a part of it. And then by the time I got the job, he had become a part of the team. And once that was true, it felt like, that's such a rich character, and what Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee created, is so interesting on a psychological level, that to do that character justice, the movie was going to have to live up to that. And then it just became about how we could tie our our hero Yelena's arc to that arc, and then the arc of all of our other characters. And for that to work, like, it really had to go to some interesting internal places. And bringing on a lot of my collaborators from Beef, like Beef touches on a lot of those same subjects. So like having Sunny come in and write a number of drafts, and Joanna Callow, who also wrote on season one of Beef, come in and help write these characters. It kind of kept going further and further in that direction as we made it. And we always felt like there was such encouragement from the studio. Kevin just said, like, yeah, keep going, make it different, go for it. And that was really, it was great to have that support.
Now, it's also the fact that the beginning and the end of a Marvel phase is always special. And knowing that Thunderbolts is closing phase five of the MCU, did that create maybe also some kind of special kind of pressure for you to deliver something special?
I think there's plenty of pressure enough when you're making any of these movies. I mean, making a good movie is a hard thing to do. And I think all we tried to focus on was like, how can we make this resonant? How can we make it work on its own terms? And we knew that if we did that, then that would, satisfy those other things, and could drive you to different places within the MCU and open up doors going into the future. But the focus was really make this one good thing if we could.
Now, looking back, I remember back in 22 when it was announced, there were quite a few people wondering, is it really necessary? Is there a need for a group of anti-heroes or losers, as you can say, to get an own movie? Now, step by step, the reactions are coming in, and I would say that most people, myself included, loved what they saw. How does it feel to create something that people might not realize they would love?
I think it feels appropriate to the characters in the film. I mean, there are also people that have been sort of cast aside or, looked past, and we always joked about that. And we knew what the perception was out there, and I think that's totally fair. I think, but I think it's important to remember that, what's been so impressive about the MCU is that a lot of these characters aren't necessarily, who you might have imagined were going to be the biggest kind of character stars in the Marvel universe, until they made these great movies that introduced them to audiences, and then people came to care about them. And so we always knew that, our job is to just kind of shut out the noise and just try to make a good film about good characters. And then if we did that, that obviously people really care about this world and are ready to embrace people like that. And that was always the goal.
Talking about the characters, I have to ask my last questions. You gave us this great group of losers, but there are obviously a lot of more potential characters to show up maybe in the future. I would love to see Baron Zemo, aka Daniel Brühl, in this role again. Meanwhile, you mentioned Man Thing as another interview, which not fit well because it showed up earlier.
Yeah.
Is there any other character you would like to see in the future if you maybe get a chance to make another one?
Boy, it's funny. I'm just so focused on these guys sort of as the Thunderbolts, and then whatever they might become in the future. I haven't thought much about like what a different team. It's like I'm so kind of in the trenches with these guys. But I mean, there's all kinds of places it could go, and it's funny. Like there's so many. There's just been so many iterations of the Thunderbolts over the years. I saw some people were like, "Man Thing, he wasn't on the Thunderbolts," and it's like, no, he was. He was there. Like everyone has served their time at some point. But I think there's a lot of different directions. You could go with those stories, and it'd be fun to start thinking about that. Yeah.
And I have to say thank you for your time and have a great day.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you liked the film.